Uchiha was the co-founder of the Hidden Leaf Village and the only legitimate rival to Hashirama Senju. However, when it came time to pick the first Hokage, Madara was overlooked. Even though Hashirama longed for him to become the Hokage, as we all know, this set off a huge chain of events which culminated in Madara returning to the Hidden Leaf Village to do battle with Hashirama Senju. However, what if things were different? What if Madara was actually selected to become the Hokage and had his face engraved on the monument side that is now known as the Hokage Monument? How would the Naruto story change? Would things be for better or would they be for worse? Well, in today's video, I plan to look at just that. In order for Madara to become the Hokage, we have to look at the moments in the series in which he could have become the Hokage. Depending on which is selected, the Narutoverse could see drastic changes. Looking at the manga, there are two moments where Madara could have become Hokage. The first instance is in chapter 625, where Hashirama approached Madara with the offer of becoming the next Hokage. As we all know, Tobirama said that if Madara were to be chosen for Hokage, that there wouldn't be support and that the selection process should be a democratic one. It was upon hearing this that you could argue that Madara made his mind up to leave the Hidden Leaf Village. The second moment in which Madara could have become Hokage is when Hashirama meets Madara towards the end of chapter 625 and the beginning of chapter 626. During the conversation, Hashirama tells Madara to stay in the village and to work at his side and to trust people, and that Hashirama will eventually make him the second Hokage. However, Madara correctly theorized that Tobirama would be picked as Hokage instead of him and that his clan would eventually be wiped out. In order for scenario 1 to occur, Hashirama would have to insist that the senior members of the Hidden Leaf Village choose Madara as their Hokage and turn down their offer. Most likely, as Tobirama predicted, this wouldn't go over very well, especially since there were rumors that hate fueled the power of the Sharingan. However, if Hashirama were to become Madara's aide, eventually the other members of the Hidden Leaf Village would agree, even if it was done so begrudgingly. For scenario 2 to occur, Hashirama would have to convince Madara that serving as his right-hand man would give him a clear path to becoming the next Hokage. Depending on which scenario is chosen, the outcome will be drastically different. For the focus of this video, I'm going to focus solely on scenario 1, but I do have a script for scenario 2 completed, and I can release that video if you all ask for it. Under scenario number 1, after Hashirama agrees for Madara to become Hokage and becomes his advisor, Madara would have to win an uphill battle in gaining the trust for the villagers and the senior members. The Uchiha were known for their visual jutsu and for their fighting methods. While some may argue that Madara would rule by force, imposing his will on the villagers, I don't fully think that this is the case. In chapter 625, Hashirama tells Madara that he can replace the family that he lost with the village and protect the village in ways he couldn't protect his family. I do believe the combination of this and Hashirama's influence would have kept Madara from going too far down the path that he did in the main series. Like Hashirama, Madara dreamed of founding a village where young children didn't have to worry about battle and could live the way children were supposed to, play free and worry free. In chapter 626, we know that for an extended period of time that this was indeed the case, because Hashirama states that after Madara left, the children of the village had lived long enough to be able to enjoy the taste of alcohol, which implies that many years had passed. I believe that seeing such peaceful times, watching children grow to become adults, would have caused a greater feeling of love to grow inside of Madara. However, this is where it's necessary to bring up Zetsu. In chapter 626, we get confirmation that Madara had already read the tablet in the Uchiha Shrine, which was changed by Zetsu sometime in the events of chapter 625, which means that Madara might have eventually read the tablet, despite seeing young children grow up, which is something that his brothers weren't able to do. I believe that in the back of Madara's mind, he would have given some thought as to what was written on the tablet. We all know that after Madara left the village, that the other villages began to form, but in the years afterwards, the first great ninja war break out. In chapter 404, we're told that Hashirama divided the tailed beast up that he captured between the 5 villages when he had their peace talks with them. I believe that if Madara were the Hokage, that if he were to read this tablet, that he wouldn't have agreed to Hashirama's idea to spread the tailed beast out. I don't think any of us can imagine a scenario where Madara Uchiha bows his head before any of the Kage. Madara was a man who desired a form of peace, but he was also a man who understood the importance of power. That moment that the talks broke down, I believe Madara would have walked away, since he was the one who pushed for Madara to become Hokage, believing in the good inside of him. I don't think Hashirama would have moved to undermine his friend by suggesting that the tailed beasts be split up to the other Kage. This means that the first great ninja war would continue on, only with the Hidden Leaf Village and the Hidden Sand Village having Biju in their possession, since it was stated in chapter 648 that the Sand Village already had the One Tail sealed away. The war would continue on, with countless lives being lost, as was the case during the Revolutionary Era. I do believe that at some point, Hashirama and Madara would come to a disagreement, either on the direction of the village or how Madara had likely continued to act hostile towards the other villages. On top of being the reincarnates of Ashura and Indra, both have different ideals when it comes to peace. Hashirama wanted peace through unity, and Madara was not afraid to seek out peace through force. I think the chances for an alteration grow significantly if you factor in Project Tsukuyomi. While Madara didn't have the Rinnegan, he would know that he needed to gather Hashirama's DNA in order to awaken the Rinnegan, which allows him to summon the Geto and seal away the Bijus. Hashirama, by the time of the conference, was already in possession of at least 5 Biju, since he was willing to give away 4 to the other Gokage during the summit. Armed with this knowledge, it isn't impossible to foresee a scenario where Madara either shares the Moon Eye plan with Hashirama, hoping to win his oldest friend to his side, or Madara keeps the plan to himself and tries to get Hashirama to collect the Biju for him, like taking the One Tails from the Sand Village. In any case, the two would eventually come to blows over their ideological beliefs, especially if a situation arises where Madara has the Hokage title threatened to be taken away from him. One wishes to seek peace through unity, and the other wishes to seek it through force, which brings us to the Valley of the End fight, which would occur during the First Great Ninja War. While Tobirama leads the village in the war effort, Hashirama would battle Madara, which would eventually end up with Mito sealing the Kyuubi inside of her. Originally, Madara took control of the Kyuubi before attacking the village, but knowing Hashirama has several tailed beasts under his control, I think Madara would be more incentivized to capture the Kyuubi before he goes into this fight. After Madara is defeated, Hashirama would go on to become the second Hokage and lead the village through the war. Given that peace talks had already broken down and the Kages were already reluctant to attend the first summit, I don't think that Hashirama could have gathered them together for another summit. Though it is likely, I do think that this might not be possible, given the fact that Hashirama would have killed a former Kage in order to take power. Also, if you look at all of this, the tailed beasts that Hashirama collected wouldn't be spread out amongst the villages, leaving only the 2 countries with tailed beasts, 3 if you count the Gold and Silver brothers with the Hidden Cloud Village, which was stated in chapter 529 of the manga. This would mean that after Madara fought Hashirama, the Hidden Leaf Village would be in possession of 6 Biju, since Mito would use a sealing jutsu to take control of the Kyuubi during Madara's fight with Hashirama. With the Hidden Sand Village in possession of the One Tails, this would leave 2 tailed beasts for 3 other villages to seek out. As we all know, villagers can possess more than one tailed beast, since Hashirama did possess at least 5 during the Gokage summit, and the Hidden Cloud Village possessed 2 in the Naruto series. This would create an imbalance of power amongst all the nations, which very well could lead to more warfare, especially when it becomes known that Hashirama would now be in possession of 6 Biju, including the Kyuubi, who is now sealed away in his wife Mito, the first Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. I foresee 3 scenarios unfolding. Scenario 1, the other villages unite to fight Konoha, who would be viewed as 2 possible. Scenario 2, Hashirama uses his position to force the Gokage into signing another treaty. Scenario 3, the Gokage don't agree to the summit, given that there might be trust issues with Hashirama taking control of the Hokage title from Madara. If scenario 1 were to happen, I see no reason why Hashirama would not go ahead and win the war and then force a peace talk. In scenario 2, Tobirama would push his brother to make the other villages pay an even larger fee for the Biju that they were going to distribute. In scenario 3, I believe Hashirama would have gotten Mito and the other members of the Uzumaki clan to select candidates to turn them into Jinchurikis. After this happens, at some point peace talks would ensue because there would be too many lives lost and the battle would be futile at this point. As we all know, from the first data book on page 116, there were still many battles that were being fought between nations after Hashirama distributed the tailed beast among the nations, because Hashirama died during one of these wars. However, he was not killed by Kakuzu like a lot of people believe. Given this would likely still happen, we reach a very interesting point. The Uchiha clan and Hashirama's dying words for Tobirama to treat the Uchiha clan with care. Unlike in the main story, where Madara leaves the village and returns to attack the village alone, under this scenario, Hashirama would be the one viewed as the aggressor. I don't see how this would go over well, even if Hashirama disclosed his reasons for killing Madara. I don't see the Uchiha clan taking the murder of their clan leader, who also held the highest position of the clan in the village, lightly. This isn't a case where a civil war would be unavoidable, but I do think that this could be capable of being bypassed if the Uchiha clan leave the village, or they defect to another country, or they leave the village to found their own village. In either case, there would be retaliation. I don't see a scenario where the Uchiha stay in the village, because if their clan leader and Hokage was killed by a Senju of all people, why do any of them think they would be safe? It's also at this point that we should point out that Madara revealing himself to the Uchiha clan does become a possibility, since he would have used Izanagi in order to reverse the death that Hashirama gave him. It's very possible that Madara would establish a village of his own with this clan, especially since he would not harbor hatred towards the clan, given most of the known world thinks he's dead. I could foresee Madara acting in a similar fashion as Pain, who ruled the Hidden Rain village while the outside world thought that Hanzo was still in control. If Madara were to reveal himself, the Uchiha clan would stay out of the war unless they took mercenary jobs to sustain themselves and their village. While it is possible that Madara would lash out at the Hidden Leaf village, Madara is too intelligent to not see the bigger picture. He'd already read the tablet, which means that he would have already vomited up the flesh of Hashirama that he bit off during the battle, and he would know that the Rinnegan is key for his plans for Project Tsukiyomi. It's for this reason I think that it's most likely that Madara would eventually entrust the Uchiha with his plans for Tsukiyomi, or he would bide his times in the shadows, not having revealed himself to the Uchiha, and waited for his Rinnegan to manifest so he could recruit a promising Uchiha to fulfill the role that Obito originally did. Meanwhile, the death of Tobirama would still occur, like we saw in chapter 481, where his team was cornered by an elite ninja from the Cloud Village, and he entrusted Sarutobi with the position of Hokage. However, as another reminder, in this scenario, Sarutobi would go on to become the 4th Hokage. This brings us to Madara's Rinnegan and Nagato. Originally, Madara chose Nagato to take ownership of his Rinnegan since he was part Uzumaki, and Uzumaki have a notorious reputation for their massive chakra reserves. It was his intention to have Nagato revive him using the Rinnegan when the time was deemed right. I believe that this would still happen because we know that from Obito, the strain of using a dual Rinnegan was too much for a regular Uchiha. Even Obito couldn't wield 2 Rinnegan even with the addition of his Senju DNA. Whoever Madara recruited would likely coax Nagato into forming the Akatsuki, and the Akatsuki as we know it would come into fruition in the years to come, with certain additions and subtractions taking place. In regards to the Uchiha, it remains possible that Danzo acts behind the scene, behind the back behind Sarutobi to wipe out the Uchiha clan, wherever they have settled at. We've seen on 2 occasions where Danzo joined with Hanzo to wipe out the original Akatsuki in the Hidden Rain village, and when he cornered Itachi and forced him to massacre the Uchiha clan. We know also that from the second Itachi novel that Danzo felt confident enough in the combined power of himself and Sarutobi, leading a surprise attack on the Uchiha clan, that they could eliminate the Uchiha outright altogether if they caught them off guard. Depending on when Danzo makes this move, a young Fugaku Uchiha would likely be killed, meaning that there would be no birth of Naruto and Sasuke. Given Danzo felt erasing the Uchiha was the only way to ensure peace for the village, I don't see Danzo's attitude changing anytime soon, especially given that the Uchiha would be outside the village and there would be open blood, bad blood between the two. Due to Kishimoto's sudden shift in the second half of Naruto towards focusing on destiny, I believe that if there's a chance for the attack to take place, that there might have been one or two survivors, which for the sake of keeping the Ashura and Indra aspect of the story intact, would be Itachi and Sasuke's parents. Where the next change takes place is Naruto's parents. With the Uchiha clan either living in another village or dead, there remains a very low possibility that Kushina is targeted to have the Kyuubi extracted during her childbirth, which means that Naruto's parents would be alive. Whoever Madara would have recruited would have no personal vendetta to attack the village in the manner that Obito did, because he or she would have been needed to serve as the puppet master for the Akatsuki as it was being formed. This brings us to Kakashi. With the Uchiha out of the village, there would be no legend of Kakashi of the Sharingan. In fact, given the circumstances of Team Minato's missions during the war, it remains a high possibility that Kakashi and Rin get killed, particularly when you look at Kakashi and Obito's mission when they tried to save Rin from the hidden stone village ninja. If you guys will remember, Obito's Sharingan played a vital role in defeating both of the hidden stone ninja, and given the fact that Kakashi had gotten blinded by one of them, that more than likely Kakashi and his new teammate would have been defeated, which means subsequently that Rin would have been killed after her information was taken via the Genjutsu. While this would be a crippling blow for the Hidden Leaf Village, given that their plans would be exposed, eventually I see the Hidden Leaf Village finding a way to win the war. Minato would still be viewed as a hero, though the losses of his team would hang very heavily on his heart. However, since he would have carved out his own legend during the war as Minato the Yellow Flash, the man who took down 1,000 shinobi, I believe that Minato would go on to become the next Hokage, which in this timeline would make him the 5th Hokage. I believe that at some point, if it had already not been done, that the tailed beast in Konoha's possession would be sold off to the other villages as a way to prevent war from taking place. The reason being is that the Hidden Leaf Village has several Jinchuriki, and that the other villages might view them as a threat and band together. Minato would go on to govern as the 5th Hokage with a full family. I believe it is a strong possibility that Naruto would very closely mirror Boruto in terms of attitude. Like in the Boruto movie, Naruto would grow irritated with the fact that his father was not around, and Minato would be irritated with his son, given the fact that, like Boruto, Naruto would likely know several changes in chakra nature during this point and not understand the true purpose of being a shinobi. In the manga, just before Jiraiya leaves to fight Pain, he tells Tsunade that he teaches Naruto advanced jutsu because he wants Naruto to walk the same path as his father, and I have no reason to believe that Jiraiya would not do the same thing here. The Naruto in this timeline would also very likely know Uzumaki's sealing jutsu depending on what path Kushina decides to take him. And if this is the case, we could potentially see a scenario where Naruto not only has better chakra control, but also has access to the sealing chains of the Uzumaki clan. Given the fact that Naruto does have Kushina in his life to strike the fear of God in him, I do believe that Minato would have a son who would be acting out. This is because we saw with Boruto with Naruto and Konohamaru with the 3rd Hokage that the children of a Hokage and grandchildren do tend to act out if they are not given the attention, since their fathers and grandfathers tend to place the village on a higher pedestal and place raising their children on the back burner. Meanwhile, outside the village, the ghost of Madara Uchiha would continue to develop on two fronts. The first would be the maneuvering of the Akatsuki, who have their strings pulled by the Uchiha that Madara recruited. The second would prove to be equally as deadly. The sons of Fugaku Uchiha wouldn't be as we know them. Fugaku would harbor an intense hatred towards the Hidden Leaf Village, similar to how Chino did in the Naruto Shinden novel Sunrise, and Nagato did in the original Naruto series. It's very possible that Zetsu would not only be aware of Fugaku, but also Itachi and Sasuke, with the latter being a candidate to be Indara's reincarnation. I could foresee a situation where the parents of Sasuke and Itachi Itachi are recruited to the Akatsuki with the promise of revenge against the village. I believe that in time, both Itachi and Sasuke would be joining the organization, which would give the Akatsuki 4 Sharingan users, with the ideal pairings being the parents and the siblings having their own teams. However, I could see a scenario where the Sharingan is spread out among multiple teams or 4 different teams in the Akatsuki, with Sasuke joining as Itachi grew sick and as Sasuke got older. Also, it's important to know that Zetsu would note that Itachi's little brother Sasuke is the reincarnation of Indra. Meanwhile, Team 7 as we know it would not be together. Naruto would not fail the academy graduation exam 3 times like he was stated to have done in the manga, which means that he would have graduated from the academy earlier than the Konoha 11 members, though it's likely that Naruto still forms a friendship with his classmates. Naruto will go on missions with this new team, but the events of the Land of Waves arc would turn out to be different. Originally, while under a genjutsu, the 4th Mizukage ruled the Hidden Mist Village during an era in which it was known as Blood Mist Village. This would never have happened since the 4th Mizukage, who may or may not have been a Jinchuriki, wouldn't have been placed under a genjutsu by Obito. This means that Zabuza never attempts his coup and doesn't become a ninja for hire, which means that Gato does not try to turn on Zabuza, and whatever team is sent with Tazuna, likely composed of Chunin and Jonin, end up defeating whoever Gato hires. Meanwhile, it does need to be noted that at some point that Orochimaru would have attempted to take the Sharingan from one of the members of the Uchiha clan who are in the Akatsuki. Given we know very little about Sasuke's mom, I believe that she might have been a target, but if she did indeed have Sharingan, which is not confirmed, then the end result would be the same. Demon Illusion, Shackling Stakes is a Kekkei Genkai dojutsu exclusive to the Sharingan. While we've only seen Itachi perform this genjutsu, as well as Sasuke if I'm not mistaken, there's nothing to suggest an Uchiha with the Sharingan cannot perform this genjutsu. At some point, if Orochimaru isn't killed, then he would go off into hiding. It can be debated whether or not Orochimaru would attempt to destroy the Hidden Leaf Village while using his alliance with the Hidden Sand Village. Part of the reason why he attacked the village in the first place was to retrieve Sasuke, who would be a member of the Akatsuki or close to becoming one in this scenario. Assuming Orochimaru attempts the invasion, using the cover of the Chunin exams, I don't know if he kills the 4th Mizukage, and the reason being is Minato. Orochimaru would need help fighting Minato due to his Flying Thunder God Jutsu, as well as Minato's Sage Mode. This would be even more true if Sarutobi is on the platform where the Kages are watching the final rounds of the Chunin exam. In this scenario, Guy and the other Jonin would be fighting off the invasion while protecting the villagers. Meanwhile, assuming Minato can't teleport out the barrier, which I have not seen any confirmation of, there would be a 2-on-2 battle between the 4 Kage level shinobi. Even with Sarutobi being in a weakened state due to his advanced age, I see no reason Minato could not hold off the 4th Kazekage and Orochimaru. Even if he revives the Senju brothers as a part of his incomplete Edo Tensei, given Minato would know advanced seals, the 2 Hokage would likely be sealed, and Orochimaru and the 4th Kazekage would be soundly defeated. The Sound 4 at some point would likely release their barrier to assist Orochimaru if he were in trouble, though even then, Minato would easily demolish them using various combos and his Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Meanwhile, with Gaara on a rampage, fully transformed into the One-Tails, Kushina Uzumaki would be one of the Konoha shinobi tasked with holding off Gaara and the Sand siblings until Minato could enter the battle. Kushina alone makes this battle very interesting. In chapter 367, both Jiraiya and Tsunade praised her skill as a ninja. In the 4th data book on pages 26 and 27, we learned that she had control over wind and water release as well as yin release. I have not been able to find anything stating that she had any varying degree of control over the Kyuubi, so for the purposes of this video, I'm going to assume that she did not have any control. However, her sealing jutsu alone allowed her to produce chakra chains, which could easily subdue the One-Tails, and she could create a barrier that would prevent anyone from entering. If Jiraiya so happened to be in the village like he did during the original Konoha Crush arc, then the invasion of the Hidden Leaf Village would be even less likely to to succeed. I see no reason, after defeating Orochimaru, that the 4th Kazekage and Minato definitely wouldn't have had a conversation, as well as Minato having a conversation with Orochimaru after he defeats the One Tails. At this point, it remains possible that Kabuto slips away in the chaos, though there would be a bounty placed on his head. With Minato being made the Hokage, Tsunade would never return to the village, allowing for her to continue to live her life gambling and drinking, though it should be noted that Jiraiya was actively tracking her movements. Orochimaru would be given life imprisonment, however, I don't think that he would be executed like a normal rogue ninja. Orochimaru would know of the Akatsuki's movements, who, as we know from Jiraiya's conversation with Kakashi, would be in the early stages of their assignments to capture the tailed beast. Given that Minato's wife is a Jinchuriki, he would listen very closely to Orochimaru's words, which would allow Orochimaru to trade intel on the Akatsuki for life imprisonment, with them obviously scheming for a way to eventually escape. Being made fully aware of the Akatsuki, Minato would likely take a proactive stance towards stopping the Akatsuki, which may or may not include alerting the other villages to the threat that their Jinchuriki face, though it should be noted that trust between the villages was very shaky in the original series. It took the Akatsuki capturing nearly all of their Jinchuriki in order for them to convene for a conference, which means that this very well could be the case still. Naruto would likely train even harder, though he would have to work extremely hard given he is Ashura's reincarnate. Depending on what happens with Gar, who would have been defeated during the invasion, he may or may not be imprisoned or sentenced to having the One Tail sealed inside of a new host as a consequence for his participation in the Konoha invasion. 3 years later, regardless as to who is the host of the One Tails, Data and Sasori would capture the One Tails. Depending on the stance of the new Kazekage, the Hidden Leaf Village may or may not find out, which means that it's possible that unless intel is gathered, that the movements of the Akatsuki go unnoticed. After 3 years of training, Naruto would become a lot stronger, likely learning Sage Mode, though by extension Sasuke and the family of Uchiha would be growing stronger as well, possibly achieving Mangekyo Sharingan and having access to Susanoo. Given the mystery surrounding Itachi's illness, for the sake of keeping continuity intact, I'm going to assume that Itachi still gets sick, which places a huge limit on his stamina. And given the fact that Madara likely would have told the Uchiha that he selected about the weaknesses of the Mangekyo Sharingan, particularly when it comes to blindness, I believe that the Uchiha family would use the Mangekyo sparingly. I see no reason why each of the Uchiha would not be able to capture the tailed beast that they were assigned, unless one of them was assigned Kushina. If a team of Uchiha were sent after Killer Bee, I see no possible way like Killer Bee could escape like he did originally when Sasuke was sent after him. Team Taka were very talented, but they wouldn't have been experienced as the team of Uchiha or the team with one Uchiha who was sent to capture Bee, which means ultimately Killer Bee would be captured and sealed away. Meanwhile, Minato would likely allow Jiraiya to gather intel on Pain, who would still go on to kill him in their battle. By the time that Pain invades the Hidden Leaf Village, things could get very tricky. Pain would likely still target the Hidden Leaf Village, but instead of seeking Naruto, he would be hunting down Kushina. The moment that the attack takes place, Minato could easily teleport Kushina to a safe location like Mount Miyaboku, where Naruto would likely be charged with guarding her, or he could return to the village and protect it. If Minato has markers stationed around the village, I see no reason why Minato couldn't teleport to each of the Pains. The battles would vary in difficulty. A fight with the Deva Path would prove to be very difficult, given the ability to attract and repel, but once Minato discovers the 5-second interval, he could pull it off if he could mark him. The Ashura Path uses mechanical weaponry, which would cause Minato to be on the defensive during their fight, but given the options using the Flying Thunder God and the Flying Thunder God Stage 2, Minato could win this fight easily. The Human Path will prove to be tricky if Minato doesn't have intel on how the Human Path works, given that one touch can allow him to steal your soul, but I believe that if Minato figures this out, that the battle would be similar to that of the one with Obito, where whoever got the first hit would win the fight in the end. The Animal Path does have the ability to summon, but Minato can summon toads to even the playing field while he fights the Animal Path. The Preta path is able to absorb jutsu, which very well could pose a problem for Minato, but we have to remember that Minato does have Sage Mode to his disposal. Finally, the Naraka path can restore the various pains as well as fight Minato if need be. Minato very likely would have the luxury of fighting the different pains in Konan one by one, but if he cannot defeat them before the Naraka path restores any of the pains, then the village would likely be destroyed by pain. The most advantageous method of battle would be for Minato to fight one by one. Given the linked vision of the Rinnegan, the moment that Minato began attacking the three pains who consisted of the diversion team, Nagato would know that Minato was on the move and use the Naraka path to restore the paths of pain who were defeated, unless Minato thought to seal them away after he defeated them. This does set up an impossible task for Minato, given the fact that Nagato would know that his only option was to flush out Minato either by going straight to him or blowing up the village using the Deva path. Since Tsunade wouldn't be there, there would be likely high numbers of casualties when this happens. If Minato were to fight all six at once, then the battle would be intense. The six paths or three paths of pain would have shared vision, which would compromise the surprise element of Minato's Flying Thunder God, even if the numbers were reduced to three, given that Minato would have sealed away the three he defeated. Any paths that Minato would try to mark would be sacrificed by Nagato, given that he can use the Naraka path to restore any who were one-shotted by Minato. Also, it's worth noting that Danzo likely would stand by like he did in the manga to watch the destruction of the Hidden Leaf Village. Minato's best option would be to have Sarutobi fighting alongside him, since Guy and his team would likely be out on a mission and Naruto would be tasked with guarding his mother. I think that it stands a very high chance that Minato falls in this battle. Assuming that this is the case, that Minato and Sarutobi are overwhelmed by the six paths due to the sheer number, and Sarutobi being 3 years older, both Hokage will fall in this battle. Continuing under the scenario, it remains likely that Nagato would eventually learn that Kushina wasn't in the village and transported to Mount Miyaboku. Given the situation, two things could occur. After a prolonged period of not hearing anything from Minato, one of the Toads could return to the village and then return to Mount Miyaboku to alert Naruto. We know from chapter 409 that the only way to reach Mount Miyaboku is a months-long travel by foot, which requires a person to already know the path or a reverse summoning, though Jiraiya did break this when he transported himself with a summoning jutsu without a contract. In the manga, it was left unclear if Nagato knew where Mount Miyaboku was, but he did blow up the village and stated that he knew where to look for Naruto. It's very likely that he knew the location because Jiraiya could have said something during his many years of training him to learn ninjutsu. At some point, it remains possible that Nagato would return to Mount Miyaboku, where Naruto would be waiting, or Naruto and his mother would think to go off into hiding before Pain gets there. If Nagato does indeed go there, with Naruto being there to wait, I don't see Nagato's paths of pain being defeated, especially if Konan is there to support them. This would mean that Kushina would be captured and the QB would be extracted and the Infinite Tsukiyomi would be launched. However, assuming that Naruto and his mother leave, I believe that Pain would lay waste to Mount Miyaboku and a green light will be placed on Naruto and his mother. All of the Akatsuki members will be allowed to hunt Kushina, given that they could be anywhere in the world. This could open the door up for a potential Naruto versus Sasuke battle, with Naruto fighting to protect Kushina from Sasuke. However, due to Zetsu's skill at gathering intel, I believe it's possible for Naruto and Kushina to be found long before Naruto is allowed to train long enough to get strong enough to avenge Minato's death. If you look at each of the Akatsuki pairings, particularly when it comes to the Mangekyo Sharingan users, I don't see a scenario where Naruto is able to win, even if Kushina is able to back him up. Given it's likely that Naruto and Kushina would be caught off guard, Naruto and his mother, the mother and son duo, would likely fall and Kushina would be sealed away. At this point, Nagato would be forced into reviving Madara, who would likely go on to kill the Akatsuki members who disagree with his vision before launching the Infinite Tsukiyomi. It's at this point that Black Zetsu would betray him and Kage would ultimately win. Well guys, that's it for my video today. Like stated before, I have another version of this video where when Madara becomes the second Hokage, and it changes things in a different way. Let me know if you guys want to see that version in the future. Thank you so much for sitting to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.